13 years ago tonight, we said as a nation we would never forget. And tonight at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, we remember our fallen heroes from September the 11th, and we honor all of those who served in our armed forces around this great world of ours. And tonight we'll also honor the game of baseball as Fox Sports Ohio brings you Cincinnati Reds baseball, Game 2, the Cardinals against the Cincinnati Reds. Hi, hello, and welcome to Cincinnati, everyone. Along with the crafty left-hander Chris Welch and Jim Day, I'm George Graham. Baseball to talk about tonight, the game itself, but at the top of the news tonight is that Major League Baseball has issued a 2-game suspension to Joey Votto following his outburst the other day after spending 2 days of reviewing the information. Chris, it was an emotional Joey Votto who addressed us today.
Well, and he showed some remorse, no doubt about it, and I think he's had some time to look back at the tape and think about it a little bit, and he's hoping that baseball will forgive him.
Here's Joey's statement just about a half an hour ago.
In this instance, I've never seen that before, and I don't know if he has a track record either of saying no. It was just such an odd scenario, and I didn't get it. I didn't get it at all. I know I'm appealing to, for some compassion here, but I've been hammered publicly for this over the last couple days, and I feel like I'm trying to give my side of the story here. I've never been denied timeout in my memory. 9 years, especially not when you say please 3 times. I do intend on appealing, and I intend on appealing for the very same reasons that I'm stating right now. Again, I respect Major League Baseball's suspension. I respect that they have to penalize me. But at the same time, I'm also going to state my case and stand up for myself. That's all I'm doing right now.
That was Joey Votto just about a half an hour ago. The Wilkie-Votto incident, of course, has been front line throughout Major League Baseball. And, Chris, he will appeal that 2-game suspension.
Well, George, the way the baseball rules lay out is that the timeout is called only when the umpire says there's timeout. So a player asks permission. Normally he's given permission, and Bill Wilkie could have given it to him there. The speed-up rules in baseball are such that when a batter takes a pitch, he's not allowed to leave out of the batter's box. And Joey wanted a little extra time because he was upset for some reason or another, and I think he wanted to cool down. The last thing Major League Baseball wants is a confrontation like that between player and umpire, and I think they try to circumvent that every way they can, and I don't think that they're saying that Joey Votto was wrong in trying to argue that case, but the level of his intensity in arguing the case, I think, is what really makes it stand apart.
In the meantime, Joey, of course, will be in the lineup. He will appeal that suspension. A whole lot more to talk about. September the 11th, also a date in memory of Reds baseball. Will honor Pete Rose and his hit mark. We'll also talk about this game tonight. Michael Lorenzen ready to go up against John Lackey. And when we return, JD will be by to take us through a Todd Frazier feeling fine story.
Hopefully further indication that Todd Frazier is coming out of his shell and becoming the Frazier of the first half, and he joined a very elite club last night after belting another home run. He's in the 40-30 club. This is in a season, 40 doubles and 30 home runs. He had a home run and a double last night, and he joins only Frank Robinson, Dave Parker, Jay Bruce, and now himself as the only 4 in modern Reds history to accomplish that feat. Some big names on that board. A record-breaking night for rookies. We'll talk about that and more. Michael Lorenzen goes to the hill for Cincinnati. Reds seeking their second straight over the Cards.
And let's check the starting lineup for Mike Matheny and the St. Louis Cardinals, who come in first place in the National League Central with 88 wins on the season. Matt Carpenter back in the leadoff spot. Stephen Piscotty fills in left field, where they've had 4 different left fielders this year. Hayward, Peralta, Molina, Moss, Garcia. John Jay back in the lineup in center. Lackey the pitcher, and here's Michael Lorenzen.
Well, Michael Lorenzen, just 23 years old, and he is making his second start of the year against the St. Louis Cardinals. The other one was a loss for Lorenzen. He started 19 games so far, 4-8 record. Did a little time down in the minor leagues before they just recalled him. Had a good outing his last time out, and that ended up in a 6-3 win against the Milwaukee Brewers.
Lorenzen 4-8 on the year, an ERA of about 5.5. 100 innings of pitching, and Brian Price has said they'll start to lower the throttle on some of the young pitchers. Lorenzen, one of them, Chris. So you figure he'll probably be up for maybe a couple more starts.
I'm not really sure, George, and I'm not even sure the Reds are exactly sure what the magic number is, if there is one. I think it's an eyeball test where they think, and I'm not sure that they're that they're going to let him go deep, but I feel pretty confident that Brian Price knows his pitchers very well, and he knows pitching very well, and I imagine he'll make the right decision on Lorenzen. Well, he's going to throw strikes. I mean, that was the message when they sent Michael Lorenzen down in the minor leagues. He had a stretch where he went 0-6 with an 8.6 earned run average. He went down and worked with Teddy Power a little bit, and a lot of it was mental, which is don't worry about what the hitter's doing. You just go right after him with your stuff, and it'll end up in good results. And you saw that strikeout from Carpenter come on a very nice changeup from Lorenzen.
Strikeout number 1, out number 1, and here's Piscotty, the Stanford veteran, who is another West Coast performer. Lorenzen, of course, went to Cal State Fullerton. Piscotty filling in left field, where the Cardinals have had their injury problems in the outfield this year. Matt Holliday still on the disabled list with a right thigh injury. He's close to coming back. Matt Adams is off the disabled list. He pinch hit last night, had a base hit. John Jay, who had a left wrist injury, off the disabled list. He's in the lineup tonight. And Randall Grichuk is off the disabled list too. Hard hit ball under the glove of the shortstop Eugenio Suarez, and Piscotty is on with a base hit to center field. Let's check your four defensive alignment for the Reds. The Reds come in fourth in the league with only 69 errors on the season, with Duvall, Adam Duvall in left, Hamilton and Bruce center and right, Frazier, Suarez, Phillips and Votto across the infield, and Cabrera behind the plate. Ramon Cabrera, the 25-year-old Venezuelan native, gets the start tonight to catch Lorenzen. That's your four defensive alignment. There's Jason Hayward at 287, 11 homers, 51 knocked in. Lorenzen went down to AAA on the 16th of August and was there for about 10 days. And while he was down there, he got things straightened out. A couple of parts of that story were, number one, the time that he spent with Teddy Power, and not just so much mechanical but mental, and also the mental aspect. You know, we talk a lot about, you know, and Scott Boras has been in the news of late with everything that happened with Matt Harvey in New York. But Boras is Lorenzen's agent, and one of the things he wanted him to do was take a step back and remember how he felt and how good he felt about himself when things were going well. So he met with his sports psychologist. He got his head straightened out, check up from the neck up, as you would say. And Chris, that was part of his rejuvenation down at AAA.
Well, if it's not mechanical, it's mental. I mean, it's really one or the other. And as long as you have somebody that you can talk to, that you can trust, who knows a little bit about athletics, competing, doesn't necessarily have to be a pitching coach or a pitching guru. Now, Lorenzen just needed to kind of get back on the right track, which is use your arm to be aggressive.
And that goes under the glove of Suarez, and two balls that were within an eyelash of being 6-3 putouts end up being base hits, and there's runners at first and second with one out.
Boy, it is a game of inches, isn't it? I mean, either one of these balls could be fielded for a base hit. That one goes right off the glove of Michael Lorenzen. Reacts, and I think that because he ticked that ball, it had an unusual bounce and get by Suarez.
It kind of turboed after it hit after this hop and went under the glove of Suarez. So now first and second, one out, and here's Peralta.
Yeah, those are the kind of things that happen that you don't see in a box score. You say, well, he gave up 2 hits in the first inning here. We don't know what's going to happen from here on, but he could easily be sitting in the dugout right now on a 1-2-3 inning.
From the stretches, Lorenzen, Peralta 275, 16 homers, 60 knocked in. Overall, Peralta, who's been one of the few everyday performers for the Cardinals this year who hasn't been bitten by the injury bug. He leads the Cardinals with 142 hits. That's in the top 15 in Major League Baseball. And with 12 game-winning hits. So he's done what the Cardinals and John Mozeliak wanted, is produce runs and be solid at short. Once the shortstop in Cleveland, they moved him to third, thinking that maybe his shortstop days are over, but he's had 2 of his best years solid at short for the Cardinals. Slap foul, 1 ball, 2 strikes. Now, fingers are crossed as we start this one tonight. There's still rain around the area. The radar shows there's some showers around that may haunt us as the night progresses, but they expect to be able to get this game in. And last time in, Chris, you hit the month of September. You don't need another rain out, especially what you guys have gone through this year.
Well, I think the Reds have had more than 25 hours of rain delays. They've had 4 games rained out. It's been a tough summer from that standpoint, but you know, you're watching big league baseball. Sometimes it's worth waiting for.
Lorenzen waiting for hopefully a ground ball that'll get him out of this inning. Peralta digs in with a ball and with 2 balls and 2 strikes, and Molina on deck.
What I like so far about Michael Lorenzen in this inning is that he's not nibbling around the corners. He's coming right after the hitter. So the message that he got, whether he got it from Scott Boras or whether he got it from the sports psychologist or Teddy Power or Brian Price or Jeff Pico, he got it, and that's the key. And it's interesting, the matchup that we have tonight on the mound. Michael Lorenzen, 23 years old, against John Lackey, 36 years old. Lackey will not get beat by throwing the ball out of the strike zone. If you're going to beat him tonight, you're going to have to swing the bat. And I think that's the attitude Lorenzen has to take to the mound as a young pitcher, too.
19th pitch of the inning, swing and fouled off. Peralta stays alive. And now this is a learning period for this Reds starting staff. You know the story. 8 rookie pitchers have started at least one game for the Reds this year. That ties the modern franchise record. 5 of those started in their major league debut. And here's Lorenzen ready to deliver his 9th pitch of the at bat, and another off-speed changeup gets him a swing and a miss. Strikeout number 2 in the inning, and there's 2 away. So when you add the numbers up for Lorenzen and his staff, our Elk and Elk storylines tell you the story of it. The most consecutive starts by a rookie pitcher since 1900 came from the St. Louis Cardinals in 1902 until tonight, Chris, and the Reds have eclipsed that mark. This is their 42nd consecutive start by a Reds rookie pitcher, a new modern major league record. Not necessarily a record that you want to hold, but the Reds will take it as a building block for next year. Molina bounces this one to second, this time into the leather of Suarez, and even with the 2 ground ball base hits, Lorenzen gets out of the inning. To the bottom of 1, Hamilton leads it off. Check his starting lineup for this game 2 of the series. Tonight's starting lineup for Price with Billy Hamilton at the top of the lineup for the Reds, brought to you by Meyer. Hamilton had a hit last night. Jay Bruce, Votto, Phillips, Frazier, Suarez, Duval, Cabrera, Lorenzen. You add it all up, and the numbers last night for the Reds pretty impressive in terms of offense. The run total exceptional, and Chris, top to bottom, 7 of the 8 position players had a hit, and they had some extra base hits, and they also scored with sacrifice flies and groundouts too.
Well, they had a lot going for them last night. Todd Frazier leveled on a couple of them. Joey Votto extremely hard to get out. He had a good night. Schumacher finds the gap. 6 extra base hits. That's the most since they did that against the Detroit Tigers back in August. So all along, Michael Lorenzen was probably sitting in the dugout saying, hey, I'm pitching tomorrow. Save a few of those runs for me.
Here's Big John. Lackey, number 41, delivers to Billy Hamilton. Hamilton had a hit last night. 1 for 5 on the evening. Breaking ball, misses for a ball. It's 1 ball and 1 strike. The umpiring crew for tonight with Lackey on the mound. Pat Holberg behind the plate. Jim Joyce at first. Gibson and then Fairchild. Will they get it to first in time? No, they won't, and it's a bunt base hit for Billy.
Mike Matheny may come out of the dugout and wonder if there was interference on the part of Billy Hamilton running down the line. He's talking about it with his coaches right now. You should be running in that running lane. Hamilton lays down a good bunt. It's dead. But the question is, does he alter the throw or get hit with the ball on the way? And I don't think so. I think it was just an errant throw. It was in foul territory when Lackey cut that loose. Heads up play by Greg Garcia to back it up to keep Hamilton from going to second.
And knowing the veteran that Lackey is, it's almost like he tried to hit him, trying to buy that play. So Hamilton is on. Billy's going. Molina's throw. He won't get it there in time. Billy's going to be on third. A stolen base, the error, and sitting at third for the Reds in a scoreless game is Billy Hamilton. So the running game of the Reds continues, especially against Yadi Molina. Molina's never thrown out Hamilton.
Well, you saw the jump right there, and this is where a catcher gets an error, and it ought to be an error on the shortstop, because Peralta never even gives in much of an effort at all. I mean, he actually gets his body out of the way of that ball rather than try to block it. If he blocks it, he keeps Hamilton at second base. Now it changes the at-bat completely for Jay Bruce. Makes an easy shot here to get him in with a fly ball to somewhere in the outfield.
Cardinals will bring the infield in, edge of the grass. No balls, 2 strikes for Bruce, moved up to the number 2 spot today. Trying to get Jay untracked after the game last night. Ryan Price, Jay Bell sat down, tried to figure out where can we put him with Votto as hot as he is, maybe in front of Votto's the spot for him. 20 homers, 76 knocked in for Jay. That slap foul the other way and out of play. Last night for Bruce, he ended up with a sacrifice fly that produced a run and a single that maintained a rally in the 8th inning. Missing inside.
Well, with a man on third, nobody out. I mean, you jump up ahead of the hitter 0-2, and Lackey's thinking, I can get a strikeout right here. So he's tried away. He's gone inside right there, likely now to go down and away and see if Bruce won't pull off one. Now they're going to come back in again.
They'll hold the runner and get the out at first. Oh, still anchored at third is Billy. And it'll bring Votto to the plate. Joey at 317, 27 homers and 71 knocked in. Votto last night, 2 more hits and a walk. Extended his consecutive game on base streak to 29. Trying to elevate, get a sacrifice fly at the least out of this and get the Reds a run early. Chris, we talk often about the intensity of Joey Votto at the plate and the emotion that he brings to home plate as an offensive player. Been very rare that you've seen the emotion that we saw from him in the pregame interview, where he defended his actions and announced he was going to appeal the 2-game suspension.
Well, he defended the fact that he was surprised that he wasn't given timeout. I don't think he was defending that he went off the way he did. I think he's going to essentially throw himself on the mercy of baseball and saying, hey, you know, it's unusual for umpires not to give timeout. That's why I reacted the way I did.
Said in 9 years he does not remember ever not being granted timeout.
Well, and I believe that's probably true, but remember, the whole timeout or not timeout has to do with the baseball speed up rules, and they have not been in existence for 9 years, only in the last year. And the whole deal is this: when you take a pitch and it's called a strike or a ball, you are not permitted to leave the batter's box. Like right now, Votto can go everything he wants to do in the batter's box, but he's not permitted to leave the box right here. He was upset at something. He wanted to leave the box and get his head together, and that's when Bill Welke would not give him time. So you ask for time, but it doesn't necessarily mean the umpire has to give you time. At least that's the way the rules are interpreted. And umpires are encouraged not to give time because they want to keep the game going. If every batter asked for time after a called strike, we'd be back to the old game of baseball for 4 hours.
3 balls, 2 strikes to Votto. Hamilton off third, infield in. And that misses ball 4. So Votto, the streak continues. 30 now straight games on base via a hit or a walk. Here's your 4 defensive alignment for the Redbirds, who come in 10th in the league in defense. They've committed 15 more errors than the Reds have on the season. Piscotty in left, Jay back in center field, and Hayward great arm in right. Carpenter solid at third. Peralta, Garcia the double play combo. Colton Wong still out after his calf injury. He is available to play though, and Brandon Moss with Adams out is at first base. Adams back activated. He had a pinch hit single, and of course Molina behind the plate. Molina heading for another Gold Glove year. Here's Brandon, 293, 12 homers and 59 knocked in. Dribble to the right side, under the glove, the throw to the plate won't be in time. An ill-advised move by Brandon Moss. He had no chance to get to Speedy Hamilton. He probably could have got at least one out of it, so the Reds will have first and second. And a run in. They lead it 1-0.
The Cardinals have been playing some not so Cardinal-like baseball here in the first inning. We saw Peralta misplay a throw by Molina. We see Brandon Moss make a valiant play. That's the kind of play you make in the 8th inning in a tie ball game, or the 9th inning in a tie game, not in the bottom of the first inning. That's only the first run of the ball game. So they could have gotten a lead runner. They didn't, and the Reds get the benefit here by getting a run in.
Moss, predominantly an outfielder, has learned to play multiple positions at this stage of his career. Here's Frazier, 32 homers now and 83 knocked in.
I would say he's still learning.
But yeah.
The learning never stops, right?
Well, obviously, you know, they've moved Carpenter back to third. They still don't have Wong in the lineup, and they want Adams back at first. I mean, Adams is known for his bat, but he's been solid defensively at first.
Well, they had Tony Cruz, the catcher, playing third base late in the game last night, where Carpenter is right now. So they've had some players out of position. They had Randall Grichuk out in center field the other day against the Pirates, and he was unable to throw, had to underhand the ball to relay man. So the Cardinals are beat up. They're playing in different positions, and it's beginning to show. The ball will find you eventually. The old baseball term is pretty much right on it.
Frazier last night, a single, a double that knocked in a run, and a homer, a 2-run shot that made it 11-0 in the 8th inning. The home run is 32nd of the year, and now sitting on 83 runs batted in. I mentioned it last night. Jim Day reiterated it before the game today, that Frazier's a 4th Red with 40 doubles and 30 homers, joining the likes of Frank Robinson, Dave Parker, and Jay Bruce. Pretty good company. Waves at that. Not this time. That's a swing and a miss. Strikeout number 1 for Blackie. 2 away, and here comes Eugenio Suarez.
And it would be a shame if the Reds are only able to come up with 1 run in this inning, given the opportunities are out there. That ball never really does look like a strike. It breaks way out of the zone, and Frazier seemed like he had made his mind up. He was hacking at that one.
So Big John, his 29th start of the year. The big burly right-hander, 6'6", 235, now 36 years of age, dealing to Suarez. Eugenio last night had 2 hits and was the part of 2 rallies. Now, pretty much most of this Reds lineup the Cardinals are used to, and when you talk to Mike Matheny and John Mabry, the hitting coach, more than anybody they've been impressed by this young Red shortstop and the way he swings the bat, as we have too. Had a pretty good offensive year. Fouled at the plate, 1-1. RIGS bringing the energy numbers on the night, the highest average with runners on this season. That's pretty good company to be in.
I mean, I am stunned by that. I mean, you're looking at, well, Josh Donaldson, he's in the conversation for MVP in the American League. Miguel Cabrera, any list you're on with Miguel Cabrera, you're in the right category there. That is very impressive. You know, and not only has he just had this batting, but he's a threat. I mean, he's a threat to hit it in the gap. He's a threat to hit it out of the ballpark. A lot of different fields to power.
1-1. single, a stolen base, and an error put Hamilton at third. He scored on the infield hit by Phillips. 1-0 Reds. 2 on with 2 outs for Suarez. Just gets a piece to stay alive. All eyes are at the top of the division. The Cardinals in first place start of play today. Milwaukee leading Pittsburgh 2-0 in the second inning. Cubs over Philadelphia 5-1 in the 8th. First of 2 there after the rain out yesterday. Adam Duvall, tonight's left fielder, in the on-deck circle for the Reds, hitting 7th tonight. Talk about intensity, Chris. We talk about Joey Votto, and all you got to do is be around Big John for a while, and Lackey brings that same kind of intensity to the mound every time he takes it.
Well, you don't win 163 games in the big leagues without a certain level of intensity.
Nub to short, they'll get the out, so the Reds will strand a pair. They get one, lead it 1-0. We're heading to the second. Moss will lead it off. USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. By Chevy, check out our award-winning lineup only at your Tri-State Chevy dealer. And by Skyline Chili. Hey, feeling good? It's Skyline time. Great to have you with us on this night where we honor the memories of those who gave their lives on September the 11th, 14 years ago, and we honor those who continue to serve our great country. Very moving pregame ceremony. The Reds always do it right here at Great American Ballpark, and another night of that tonight. You see all the Reds are wearing, as are the Cardinals, an American flag on their hats tonight.
Best hat the Reds have worn all year.
Here's Moss, 19 homers, 58 knocked in, and he takes a quick 3-0 ball 4 walk, and the leadoff hitter is on for the Cardinals here in the second.
You know, it should never be a quick walk. I mean, you're going to have a 4-pitch walk. I mean, you're trying to throw strikes. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. But after that 2-0 pitch, that's the time to take the time out if you're a pitcher. Take a lap around the mound, talk to your third baseman, call your catcher out, tie your shoes, do something to break it up so that you don't have a quick. All of a sudden, you got a guy at first base without you really even getting your feet wet there.
Last night was a great example. John Long, if you weren't with us, John Lamb, he picked up his first major league win. 5 innings, 3 hits, no runs. He struck out 6, but he walked 6. That's a shot past Lorenzen into center field, a base hit. So a walk and a base hit, 2 on, nobody out. But in that game last night, and after the game, Brian Price gave credit to John Long for battling back, but he also gave credit to Tucker Barnhart, because Carpenter and Piscotty each walked. Barnhart went out, settled down John Lamb, and he proceeded to strike out the next 2. That got him out of a jam early. Happy young man. Win number 1 last night, and he pitched well. What did you see in his development last night, Chris?
Well, I mean, pitching out of those jams. I mean, you walk 2 just so that you can get a couple of strikeouts in the first inning with pressure. I like it. I think he's going to be a good pitcher. I mean, he's still learning. He's 25. He's a couple of years older than Michael Lorenzen. So you just have to keep adjusting the bar of expectations to where it should be based on big league experience, the team he's playing for. I mean, let's face it, this team is a last place team right now. I mean, it's not easy pitching for a team that's not winning games.
Breaking ball misses inside.
It's a lot easier pitching for a team that is in the midst of running for a championship, because you got guys really pulling in the right direction every night, and they pick you up more often than not. Doesn't always happen when you're in last place.
John Jay, after his left wrist injury, back in the lineup. They hope he'll give the Cardinals a shot in the closing weeks of the season and into the postseason. Overall, a .215, a homer, and 10 knocked in. Good job by Cabrera to haul that one in. 2 balls, 2 strikes. And to put the capper on John Lamb from last night. When all was over and everybody's filing out of the clubhouse, here came Rick Stowe with the lineup card as he was getting dressed by his locker. And Chris, you remember that moment when you got the lineup card from your first major league win?
Back in those days, George, a lineup card was like a 4x6 index card.
It was blue, right? Back then, that's all you got. Now it's a big, it's a poster now.
It's like carbon paper.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't even know what that is.
Tricky hop. Votto will get 1 at second, and that's all they'll get.
Tricky hop and a tricky play right there. Votto playing aggressive defense to get the lead runner. That's a good play when it works. And the tough part about that throw is that you're throwing, and your throwing lane isn't very big because you've got the runner right there. Garcia makes a mistake by his way he ran from first to second base. He's got to run more towards the inside part of the infield, knowing that Votto is going to field that ball, and he could get in the way of the throw. He could get in the way of the throw legally, and it would be no problem if the ball hits him in the back and they would have had bases loaded. But a good aggressive play by Votto.
Well, first and third, the double play still in order. 1 out, and here's Lackey. Lackey 115, no homer, 7 knocked in, showing bunt. That's inside.
Lackey looking out at Michael Lorenzen and wondered, did you mean to do that, kid?
Lorenzen peers in for a sign from Cabrera. This will get a run in. Lackey chugging down to first. They'll get the out, but he gets a run in. So just like last night when John Lamb plated a run on a ground ball out, here for the Cardinals, John Lackey plates a run, his 8th run batted into the season, to tie this one at 1. Moss started it with a walk and scores the first run for the Redbirds. Back to the top of the order, Matt Carpenter, who struck out to start the first inning. The ball misses down and in. Carpenter, you would list as one of the 3 or 4 impactful leadoff hitters in the whole game of baseball, and you can add that, not just a good leadoff hitter with runners in scoring position he produces, and this year he leads the Cardinals in homers with 21 and in runs batted in with 72.
Well, in scoring position this year, he's batting .343. And so this is a situation for Michael Lorenzen that now that you're 2-0, you don't want to give in. I mean, Carpenter's the kind of guy that usually will take until he has to swing the bat. But right here, he's going to take a pitch on a 2-0 count. If you throw it right down the middle, he's going to hit it hard somewhere. That's a pitcher's pitch there on the knees on the corner. If you could run that off a couple more times, it'd be a good idea to do it now.
Two balls, one strike, two outs. Lazy fly ball to center. Billy closes on it. He's got it, but oh, those walks will haunt. And they produce a run for the Cardinals. 1-1, bottom of 2. Can only be seen on Fox Channel 19 in Cincinnati, starting at 12:30 with the first pitch at 1 o'clock, and then at 7 switch over to FS1 for the Tigers and the Indians. Catch the doubleheader tomorrow on Fox and Fox Sports 1, or streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Here we go to the bottom of 2. Duvall, Cabrera, and Lorenzen. 7, 8, and 9 for the Reds. Here's Adam in at 250. Already, Chris, as you watch him in his work ethic, taking batting practice, and the 2 big jolts that he's had, 2 home runs already and a 250 average. He keeps that bat in the hitting zone a long time. A good friend of yours and a good friend of mine, Joe LaFay, the former assistant hitting coach for the Giants, said you're going to love the time that he keeps the bat in the hitting zone, and LaFay sure was right.
Well, what you don't want to see happen to Adam Duvall is he gets home run crazy and you start swinging for it every time you go to the plate. When that happens, you start chasing pitches way out of the zone like you did on that second strike. You know, the whole idea, and Joe LaFay is a very good hitting coach, is to adapt as you go through the count, because every time you come to the plate, a little different situation.
He becomes strikeout victim number 2 for Lackey. Here's Cabrera in at 167. No homers, no runs knocked in. Ramon, now 25 years of age, originally drafted by the Pirates back in 2008. Native of Venezuela. Was an all-star in the Eastern League a couple of times. Signed by the Reds. Start of the year is minor league backup for the Reds at the major league level, and promoted on the 1st of September from Louisville, where he won one of the more impressive honors. If you've ever been to Louisville or you've been a part of Major League Baseball, you'll know the name Mary Barney. Mary was mom to so many players who came through Louisville, and Ramon won the Mary Barney Award as the bat's most valuable player. Ripped to right, going back, looking up, it's going to be gone. Ramon delivers a round tripper, number 67, a solo homer, and say welcome to the big time with a big time homer for Ramon Cabrera.
Boy, that's got to feel so good.
That's super. Well, he picked up his first major league hit off Tony Watson, and there's his first homer off Big John Lackey. A likable young man and well respected by his teammates down at AAA, and well respected by the club here at the major league level too. Another look at the home run swing, Chris.
Well, he gets a ball up, a little spinner right there, and he just levels on it, does Ramon Cabrera. And hit well. That was a no-doubter.
Big deep breath for Ramon. And Lorenzen follows with a solid base hit to center field. So the Reds, with one out, have a runner at first and a run in. Hamilton showing bunt.
It just goes to show you, George, even guys who don't specialize in hitting home runs, who don't try to hit home runs. Ramon Cabrera, even in the minor leagues, was never much of a home run hitter. Hit 2 home runs all year long this year in Louisville. Hit 1 all year in winter ball last year. So he's not up there swinging for it. He's much better as a hitter for average, putting the ball in play, slashing it all over the place. But sometimes you get a pitch, and that pitch is right there. And all you do is put the sweet spot on it, and there it goes.
Well, he's now tied you for career home runs.
He did it in the first week.
Let's go back to that day.
Good for him. Now let's not go back to that. Let's center on Ramon Cabrera right here. What a special night for him. Now, of course, his concentration, get back out there and get Lorenzen to throw the ball the way he can.
Dribbler over the mound, charging Garcia, and they'll throw out Hamilton for the second out of the inning. Billy reached on a bunt hit his first time up, stole second, went to third on an error, and scored on a ground out for the Reds' first run. So Lorenzo over to second with 2 away. And just a reminder, as you enjoy a cold one, to look forward to Miller Time later in tonight's game, brought to you by Miller Lite. There's Jay, bounced out first time up. In the air to left. Did he get enough? It'll be shy at the edge of the warning track. Under it is Piscotty. He'll haul it in. But the Reds get a big-time homer. Welcome to the big leagues, Ramon Cabrera, your first major league homer, and the Reds have taken a 2-1 lead. Saturday, September the 26th. Arrive early. Be one of the first 25,000 fans to receive a commemorative All-Star Game figurine presented by your Tri-State Chevrolet dealers. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS. Visit select Kroger locations or reds.com/tickets. So the remaining schedule for the Reds, as you look at Ramon Cabrera's go-ahead home run, his first as a major leaguer. The Reds will wrap up the series against the Cardinals on Saturday and Sunday. Tomorrow's game on Fox, an afternoon game. Sunday, WLW Radio will carry the game. We will not do that game, and then we'll be there for 3 in San Francisco. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, an off day on Thursday, and then it's on to Milwaukee. On the air in San Francisco with Reds Live at 9:30 each night, 7:30 on Friday, 6:30 on Saturday, and 1:30 on Sunday from Milwaukee. Then the Reds return to St. Louis for their final trip to the gateway to the West. 3 night games next week. Reds Live at 7:30. Then the Mets come home. That's a fly ball to right. 1 away. Piscotty retired. Mets will be here on Thursday the 24th. Friday the 25th. Saturday the 26th is a 4:10 game, and Sunday the 27th. Then the Cubs in for 3, and the Reds will finish the season with 3 games in Pittsburgh. Hayward singled to center his first time up. In the corner for a strike. 2-1. Phillips can't get it. Passed him into right field for a base hit. So Hayward's 2 for 2. A single to center and a single to right. And here comes Peralta, who struck out first time up. And now time for you to tweet your strongest fan photo. Use hashtag #OhioDatoStrongFan, and you just might see yourself at an upcoming broadcast brought to you by T-Mobile.
Did they cut the grass here at the ballpark today? Because the balls are going through the infield, especially fast tonight. We saw both those ground balls with a little bit of overspin for hits in that first inning against Lorenzen Go really pick up some speed, and that one by Hayward really seemed to get through there.
Well, remember, they had the tarp on the field. No batting practice was cut short, so that pats the grass down a little bit.
Yeah. I get the old roller out. Somebody brought the roller from the Kenwood Greens and brought it out here overnight. Speed them up a little bit.
Are you going to play any golf when you're out in San Francisco?
Maybe not in San Francisco, but certainly on the other parts of our trip. We go to Milwaukee and St. Louis. See, in San Francisco, there's enough to do.
You're not kidding.
That you don't have to worry about that. Milwaukee and St. Louis, when golf becomes more of a priority.
You've seen some great courses in San Francisco, but yes, Milwaukee, you've seen some of the best courses you played on, huh?
And they're getting rain there.
Yep. 2-0, right field, looping liner over is Bruce. He'll haul it in. There's 2 away.
Good jump by Bruce right there. That ball coming off the bat of a right-hander is going to really slice. And sometimes if you wait too long, you end up having a little panic attack going after it.
Giants haven't given the Reds their pitching rotation for San Francisco Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The Reds will throw Kivas Sampson on Monday, John Lamb on Tuesday, and Michael Lorenzen on Wednesday. Giants start today 9 games back in the wild card hunt, and their playoff hopes dwindling in the West. That's a strike to Molina. Yadi bounced out to end the first inning. Somehow you never count a Bruce Bochy team out until they're eliminated, right?
Well, you're right. I mean, they seem to have done it with mirrors and smoke the last few years anyway.
Broken bat, bloop into center. Here comes the runner around second, going to third is Hayward. No throw by Hamilton, and it's first and third. So Yadi gets a base hit, 2 hits in the inning.
They just have a knack for keeping the innings alive. Now, that wasn't hit all that well. It just found some daylight. Molina was the one that made the last out of the first inning. He had a chance to do some damage, and he jumped on the first pitch he saw and hit a little ground ball that got the Reds out of the inning. But now a very dangerous left-hander steps to the plate.
Now, prior to this series, the last time the Reds saw Moss, he was a member of the Cleveland Indians. Traded just before the trading deadline. First game, a walk-off single for a victory for the Cardinals, and then the second game, a walk-off home run victory off the bat of Brandon. He walked to start the rally in the second, and later scored on a ground out by Lackey. That's a shot down the right field line, but foul.
What Lorenzen has been able to do tonight is make some really good pitches late in the count to left-handed hitters. He's got Matt Carpenter out twice, once on a strikeout on a changeup, once on a changeup and a pop-up to the center fielder last inning to end the inning and a threat. So he may end up pulling that pitch out of his pocket here against Moss.
There goes Molina, but the ball's fouled off. I mean, he had a running lead. Lorenzen never checked him.
I mean, it's amazing the number of innings he catches, the number of pitches per game that Molina catches, and here he is playing every day and trying to steal a base.
He's caught more innings than any other catcher in the National League this year again. Mike Matheny learned a lot of baseball from Tony La Russa, who he played under. And with this Cardinal team, not often does he push the envelope with the running game. La Russa would do some strange things. That's a called third strike. Moss is retired, and they'll strand 2 runners. So good job by Lorenzen to battle back. Cardinals have stranded 5. remember those who lost their lives or who lost loved ones back on September the 11th of 2001. We pay tribute to them and to the men and women who serve our great country as we honor a pledge made 14 years ago. We shall not forget, and we do not on this night. Some scenes from Washington and New York. Have you been to the World Trade Center site, Chris?
I have, George. Yeah, every time we come to New York, we try to get down there. Impressive and sad and shocking at the same time.
A moment that shook our nation to its core, and a moment that really coalesced so many in this great nation, and you wish we could continue the feeling that people came together with 14 years ago. It lasted for a while, and somehow we tend to forget. But on this night, we hope you remember those who lost their lives and those who continue to support our great country. There's Joey walk first time up. Swing and a miss. He's retired by Lackey. There's one away here in the third.
Boy, Joey really swinging hard at that at bat. That second swing by Joey Votto. Occasionally we see him take a hack like that where he just really lets it rip. Here's the 0-2 pitch for a strike three. Ticks it right into the glove, and Molina's able to hold on.
So one away, and here's Brandon. Phillips hit a dribbler down to first. Credited with a base hit when Moss threw to the plate, and too late to get Billy Hamilton. First it was ruled a fielder's choice, then changed to a base hit. There's a liner into the right field corner. Brandon rounding first, takes a big turn. He's going to try for two, and he'll get there. 2 for 2 is Brandon Phillips. He's in scoring position with one out in the third.
Where you talk about hitting the ball where it's pitched and taking it to making it your advantage. That ball stays outside, and when it's up like that about waist high, it's a lot easier to hit it on a line, and Brandon does exactly that.
He's won Gold Gloves. He's won Silver Slugger awards. And Chris, when you look at this year, and here's a fly ball off the bat of Frazier into right. Hayward's got it, and Phillips will hold at second. Well, really, when you look at what he's accomplished this year, I mean, in light of everything that's going on with this Reds team, this may be his best year ever. I mean, defensively, he's been remarkable as usual. He's hit from the leadoff spot. He's hit from the third spot. He's hit from the fourth spot. He's continued to keep intensity alive on a second half when the Reds have struggled to do exactly that. And he's 2 for 2 tonight. Here's Suarez trying to get him in. Suarez bounced out to end the first inning. Down to third, smothered by Carpenter, and they'll throw him out. So the Reds get a double, nothing to show for it. 5 hits, they still lead it 2-1.
BP. I'm Jim Day. To follow up on that innings limit talk that George and Chris were talking about earlier, in particular with Michael Lorenzen, manager Brian Price, Orwald Jocketty hasn't given specifics, as the guys said, as to what the number is for each pitcher. But one thing that Brian Price did say about Michael Lorenzen is that his innings limit will come sooner than a guy like Raisel Iglesias or even John Lamb or other rookies. So he didn't say any specifics because it obviously depends on how many pitches he throws per outing. But he did say that Lorenzen would be the first one to be shut down or at least relegated to the bullpen. I don't think tonight is his final start, but he is closing in on it.
Big swing by Garcia, and that's big enough to leave the ballpark. The little guy with the big swing, Greg Garcia, hammers his second home run of the year. And that'll tie this one up 2-2. They got out of here fast, Chris.
This is the ballpark that keeps pitchers honest, isn't it? Because there are some ballparks where Greg Garcia hits his ball and it is not even close to being a home run. But he goes out a big man's part of the yard right there, up onto the berm, barely over the fence, yes, but ties the ball game up.
Here's Jay. This one hit into the right center field alley. That'll be double dribbled by Bruce and Phillips, and the throw to the third will be in time. In time, they get him at third. Well, the old adage, Chris, don't make the first or last out at third, and Jay gets his pocket pick. Good comeback effort with Bruce and Hamilton double dribbling the ball. Bruce picks it up, and the relay is perfect to third to nail Jay.
Well, you can see what Jay was thinking right here. The ball gets bobbled around and then kicked around a little bit. Bruce gets it into the relay man, and then they're telling Suarez get rid of it quickly, and boy does he turn it and throws it right to Todd Frazier. Here's the other mistake by John Jay. When you come to the plate, you have to ask yourself a few questions, and one of them is, who's coming up behind me? And the next batter in the lineup is the pitcher. So if Jay stays at second base, the pitcher's going to sacrifice him to third, or at least attempt to. And that will even compounds it even more. Jose Oquendo down at third base does not look too happy.
9-6-5 is the put out, and there you go. It's a fair ball. Lackey bounces one into the corner. He will hold with a single, a long single, and that would have plated the run easily.
He would never have had the green light to swing.
Yeah.
With Jay at second base. But here's the trend that's going on right now. In the matter of just a few pitches in this inning, I'm not sure how many he's had, but you know, Garcia jumps on the first pitch early in the count. John Jay jumps on the first pitch, hits a double that could have been a triple. That's early in the count. Lackey's up there. You can almost throw too many strikes if you're Michael Lorenzen, and he's maybe throwing too many of those get-ahead pitches to try to get ahead.
So that pitch was up above the waist, and Lackey banged in the left. So Lorenzen trying to take a big deep breath and buckle out of this one. He's given up 3 hard hit balls, but somehow got an out of one of them. One away, and here's Carpenter at the plate. Ball, 1 strike to Matt, who struck out and flied out. Carpenter serves that in the right for a base hit. So 4 straight hits here in the 4th. Puts Lackey at second, Carpenter on at first. And here comes Piscotty. And out goes Cabrera to have a little chat with his big tall right-hander.
Well, if you're Michael Lorenzen now, you can't worry about why Carpenter got a base hit or why Lackey did or what they hit with Garcia and Jay. You have to think about Piscotty, how you got him out before. They did get him out one time. He jumped on the first pitch his last time up and flew out to right field. This is where you concentrate going forward, not backwards. And the other thing that we've seen, though, George, is kind of a trend with Michael Lorenzen is the third time through the order when you see him a little bit, they begin to get on him. And it's common with a young pitcher because oftentimes you show your whole repertoire to hitters the first time up. Most veteran pitchers like to get through that lineup one time and keep a few secrets in their pocket.
Great example, that changeup that he got 2 strikeouts of in the first inning. That's something that maybe you wouldn't use till the 4th or 5th. And he hasn't used it much of late.
But if you have runners on base in the first and second inning, that's when you have to use it right out of the chute.
Line drive, Votto has it, and they've got the runner picked off second. Lackey, as soon as the ball hit the bat, was on his way. Base running mistake by Lackey, but the Reds get the benefit. 2 good defensive plays. We're tied at 2. Being brought to you by your local Ford dealer. Ford, go further. By Meyer, find more for a healthier you at Meyer. And by Cincinnati Children's, ranking 3rd in the country on United States News and World Report's Best Children's Hospital. And don't forget, catch a full day of college football across the Fox networks tomorrow, starting with K-State and Texas San Antonio on FS1, followed by Stephen F. Austin taking on Trayvon Boykin and TCU. Then Iowa and Iowa State battle for the Cy-Hawk Trophy on Fox, followed by Stanford opening their home schedule against Central Florida on FS1. All Saturday across all the Fox channels. Full day of football following a full weekend of baseball here at Great American Ballpark. Rain early. The rain has stopped, and so far we've dodged a bullet in this one. We're now into the bottom of 4. Adam Duvall, who struck out first time up looking, takes a strike on the breaking ball. He'll be followed by Ramon Cabrera, who hit his first major league homer first time up, and then the pitcher Lorenzen. Hit hard down to short. Peralta handles it cleanly. Duvall's retired, 1 away. We mentioned that when the game started, the outfield grass wet because of the rain that washed out most of batting practice. And after the infield was covered, the infield remained dry up until just about right now. And a light mist has started to fall again here at Great American Ballpark. Here's Ramon, whose big swing produced his first major league homer. 367 feet down the right field line. The Reds had a 2-1 lead at that time. Garcia has it. The two unlikely sources, Garcia and Cabrera, each homering in this game. Ramon's retired. 2 away. On the top of the 4th inning, 5 pitches resulted in 4 hits for Lorenzen, and here in the bottom of the inning, 4 pitches have resulted in 2 outs. Lorenzen singled first time up.
You know, for a guy that has been around as long as John Lackey, it's amazing to me that he does not throw the one pitch that a lot of organizations force their young players to learn before they even go to the major leagues, and that's a changeup. I mean, he throws primarily fastballs, a slider, and an occasional curveball. If he throws a changeup, it is very rare, maybe 2 out of 100. But he really believes in that fastball. Nearly 70% of his pitches are fastballs, either 2-seamers or 4-seamers. And here's a guy that, yeah, he throws in the 90s. I mean, 92 miles an hour. There are a lot of college kids that throw at 92 miles an hour. But I mean, just keeps coming right after. He's staying away from the middle of the zone. With a 2.9 earned run average, he ought to have a whole lot more than just 11 wins.
Swing and a miss. He punches out Lorenzen for strikeout number 4. Still tied at 2.
You can see your Red Legs take on the Mets and enjoy a spectacular post-game fireworks show presented by Adams Recovery Center. Purchase your tickets today by calling 513-381-REDS. Select Kroger locations or reds.com/tickets. I'm Jim Day. A lot of fans wondering why we haven't seen Brandon Finnegan yet, one of those lefties that came over in the Cueto deal. Last night would have been a golden opportunity to get him into a game, but Brian Price talked today about following left-hander John Lamb with the Cardinals with a right-handed laden lineup. He didn't want to put him out there for an inning or so in a blowout game following a left-hander. He would much more prefer him to come into a game like tonight, following a right-hander, Michael Lorenzen. We've seen Finnegan kind of stirring around in the bullpen. In fact, well, what timing? He's up in the bullpen now. I was just going to say, don't be surprised if we see his Reds debut tonight. It looks like it is imminent.
Finnegan, of course, one of the 3 pitchers that came over in the Johnny Cueto deal. Finnegan last year coming from college to the College World Series and then to the Major League World Series for the Kansas City Royals. Here's Hayward, slashes this one to the left side and foul. He's 2 for 2, a single to center and a single to right. Overshifting the third baseman Frazier to a perfect spot, and they'll throw him out for out number 1 here of the 5th. Now, Chris, nobody wanted to see Johnny Cueto go, and nobody wanted to see Mike Leake go, but I think one thing is clear in the last couple of months, the look that we've gotten at the 3 pitchers that the Reds got from the Kansas City Royals bodes well for the future.
I like it very much.
Picked up victory number 1 last night as a major leaguer. Pensacola in the playoffs. The Reds AA team has Cody Reed going for them tonight, and of course Finnegan's loosening in the bullpen.
I mean, you make a trade like that, and realistically, you don't think that all 3 of these guys are going to be big league pitchers for you. I mean, that would just be beating the odds, right? But 2 of them are on the big league team right now. One started last night, has done a nice job, although his numbers aren't all that great. Lamb seems to be getting better and better. The 6 walks aside, when you can pitch a shutout baseball and give up 6 walks, you know you're doing something. Finnegan, of course, has been in the big leagues before. And you've got a guy starting in the playoffs in AA. So, and people tell me that they really like Reed. I mean, those scouts that have seen him are very excited about him. Excellent pitch here by Lorenz, and he looks like this inning beginning to add and subtract a little bit better. And location too. Look at the location of all those pitches, either at or below the strike zone. A right on right changeup. You don't see that very often unless Johnny Cueto's on the mound.
Peralta strikes out for the 2nd time on that same pitch. He struck out in the 1st on the changeup. So 2 away, and here comes Molina. Bounced to short and single to center. This one will sneak its way through on the left side, so Molina's 2 for 3. Get to this stage of the year, Chris, and everybody starts to talk who's the MVP, who's the Cy Young Award winner. Yadi Molina's probably not going to be the MVP in the National League. And Bryce Harper's had a great year. You know, but down the list, Goldschmidt. I mean, you can pick 3 or 4 players that have had tremendous years, but I can't think of a guy more valuable than Molina.
Well, where would the Cardinals be without him is the question. I mean, from the just handling the pitching staff, and a lot of times the writers who vote, and I guess everybody else who votes, they don't take a lot of consideration in that. The first thing they say, well, let me take a look at the numbers. I remember when Barry Larkin won the MVP back in the 90s. That seemed like one of the first years ever that the voters took into consideration leadership skills. Because he had a great year statistically, but it seemed like, looking back, I have to look it up, but it seemed like there were other players that had better offensive years according to the numbers on what he meant to that ball club. And his leadership was the thing that put him over the top.
Now, the other year to me was the Terry Pendleton year when he outdistanced Barry Bonds. I mean, Bonds' numbers were gigantic, but Pendleton in his first year over in Atlanta after coming over from St. Louis meant so much to the Cardinals that he won the MVP award. I remember when Barry won the MVP award, he could have been the league leader in stolen bases, and I remember in September somebody said to him after a ball game, you know, you had 2 chances to steal. You know, the Reds were leading by 3-4 runs at the time, and he said, I'm not here to win stolen base titles, I'm here to win a World Series. That message was given to a young Reds player, and it hit the note completely the way Barry Larkin always hit the note. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Moss, who walked and struck out. Lorenzen struck out Carpenter and Peralta in the first. Moss in the second. And his 4th strikeout here in the 5th, Peralta. Make it 5. Still tied at 2. Reds go back to work. Top of the order. Billy Hamilton leads it off. Ranked defending national champion Ohio State Buckeyes back at the Horseshoe for the home opener against Hawaii. Coverage starts at 3:30 on BTN and available on BTN to go. Buckeyes hoping to back it up. Michael Lorenzen hoping that his teammates can get him a run here. He exits in a 2-2 ball game, getting congratulations from his teammates. So Lorenzen, here's Billy. Lashes this one to left into the corner. It is a fair ball. Hamilton around first, will cruise into second, takes a big turn but will hold there. So even though Lorenzen leaves 2-2, if the Reds score a run here, that'll go towards his ledger.
Well, there's a lot of different ways you can limit the number of innings that you pitch and pitches that you throw. One of them is take your starter out after 5 innings. So an interesting strategy by Brian Price, but this double right here by Billy Hamilton makes things encouraging for a W for Michael Lorenzen.
So Billy's sitting on second. Here's Jay Bruce, bounced out, flied out 0 for 2.
Well, at the very least, a ground out to the right side would get Hamilton to third and Votto to the plate.
Peralta anchored right behind Hamilton.
Well, you see how Jay Bruce just took that pitch. You know, you could see his head floating over to the outer part of the plate, and by the time the pitch reached the catcher's mitt, he was completely out of balance. That just tells me as a pitcher that he's not really seeing it right now, and that if you throw it down the middle, he'll see it. But you got an advantage on him right now because he's moving around the box. His head is moving as the pitch is coming. You know, searching for something that kind of will get him back locked in.
2 balls, 1 strike. Outfield straight away and a couple of steps deep in center and right. Hit on the button to center. 1 step in for Jay. Now he retreats, hauls it in, but that'll easily get Hamilton to third. Good first move by Billy to get back to second and tie up. So he tags up. He's at third. Bruce advances the runner and is a runner at third with 1 out. Don't forget, if a Reds home run hits the Toyota sign during tonight's game, Greg Hudson from the Queen City of Cincinnati will win this beautiful new Tundra on display at Great American Ballpark. Register for your chance to win at an upcoming game by seeing your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Toyota dealers. And with Joey coming to the plate, they won't take any chances. They'll walk him intentionally with Hamilton down at third. Votto walked, struck out, and will be intentionally walked here in the fifth.
For Votto, this is intentional walk number 12 on the year. He has 19 in 2013. He usually gets anywhere from 15 and 19 per year.
Well, here comes Brandon. He's cashed in a couple of base hits when they've done this with an intentional walk in front of him. Let's see if he can do it again. Phillips tonight credited with an infield hit when the Reds took a 1-0 lead in the first, as Hamilton scored after Billy walked, stole second, went to third when the throw by Molina went into center field, and then scored on the Phillips grounder. In the third, he had a 1-out double to right, but was left stranded. Hopped up. Is there going to be room? Moss, edge of the, and he got it right at the edge of the dugout. Brandon Moss got there, planted his foot, and erases Brandon Phillips.
Boy, that's a dandy catch by Moss. That ball was deeper into the dugout than it appeared. Looked like it was going to come back. Moss has really got to reach just at the last second. If he catches that ball and then tumbles into the dugout, the runners move up.
Phillips trying to push it foul, and upset as Moss makes a nice play for the second out of the inning. So it'll be up to Frazier, who struck out and flied out 0 for 2.
Well, we've had two really good facial reactions this inning. One on Lackey on that ball that Billy Hamilton hit that stayed fair inside the line. Anger reaction, and the same for Brandon Phillips after his pop-up was caught in the dugout.
So Billy's sitting at third, Votto over at first, and it's 1 strike to Frazier on the bunt attempt. There goes Votto, swing and a miss, and they will not throw down. A stolen base for Joey. That'll be his 9th of the season.
That's a smart play by the Reds, because I think they were taking a calculated risk that the Cardinals were not going to go through, because Billy Hamilton, completely different situation when you got a speedster like Hamilton at third base. Any kind of a muff on the throw and he comes into home, or if he even reads the throw right, he can beat that first and third defensive play.
Up high, 1 ball, 2 strikes to Frazier.
Yeah, that's a teaser pitch.
He struck him out in the first on a breaking ball wide, and it was a fastball away that he flied to right his second time up. He stays away here.
I'm sure he stays away. That was the idea of that 0-2 fastball around the eyes as hard as you can throw it. And then you go to a completely different part of the zone right here. Frazier's probably thinking, well, they're probably going to go down and away from me. And he got me to chase last time. I'm not going to chase this time. What pitchers have done, though, to Frazier here in the second half of the season is gone less away. They've gone more fastballs up and more fastballs in, because he was diving on the outer part of the plate. He was reading for breaking ball and got it.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Frazier. Same spot, down and away. Frazier strikes out for the second time. Lackey with 5 strikeouts. We're tied at 2 going to the 6th. Showtime highlights and pitch tracking info on your out-of-market fantasy players live or on demand on over 400 devices. Blackout and other restrictions do apply. Get MLB.tv today. If you had MLB.tv last year, you could watch Brandon Finnegan pitch in the College World Series, then pitch in the real World Series for the Kansas City Royals. Now you watch him make his debut, Chris, as a Cincinnati Red.
Well, he's got to be excited about that. Reds fans definitely excited to see a lot of Brandon Finnegan. They were hoping to see him actually right after the trade, I'm sure. He has been up with Kansas City this year as he was last year. 14 games and a 3-0 record. A good opponent batting average.
Saw the numbers down at Louisville overall at Omaha for Kansas City and at Louisville. 19 games, 15 games started. He was 0-6 as a starter with a 5.65 earned run average. He made his feelings clear in Kansas City. They told him he'd get a chance to start. Never did at the major league level. They were blessed with tremendous starting pitching. Was in the process of getting that done at Omaha. Here's a bouncer right back to Finnegan. Garcia, who is 2 for 2, including a homer, bounces out for the first out of the 6th. And the Reds have given him that opportunity, closing things out for the month of August under Teddy Power at AAA Louisville. Last year they needed him in the bullpen. Boy, did he provide some juice to that bullpen that was exceptional in the postseason for Kansas City, Chris.
Well, he was, and they thought he was polished enough coming right out of TCU that he could go and pitch in the major leagues last year. And not just pitch in the major leagues, but pitch in the playoffs when they really counted.
There's John Jay, bounced into a fielder's choice and doubled and was thrown out trying to stretch it into a triple on a great relay from Bruce to Suarez to Frazier.
When they called him up last year, Kansas City called up Brandon Finnegan on September 1st. He was the first player from last year's draft, the 2014 draft, to be called up to the major leagues. Made his debut against the New York Yankees.
Not many Royals debuted in the first year they signed. One of them was a pretty good player in his own right, Bo Jackson.
I guess so.
Boy, but
he was in that can't miss category.
Man, oh man.
In just about any sport he wanted to do.
What a tremendous athlete.
Except maybe hockey.
How do you know?
Even he admitted that. You know, they remember the series of Nike commercials? They had the Bonos.
Yep.
I remember the one where he did, I think, ran up hockey, and then Gretzky came on the screen and said, no.
No. 3-1 fouled off. Overall, for Finnegan, he made 7 postseason relief appearances last year in their run to the World Series.
Well, the first one they made was in the wild card. And that was against the Oakland Athletics, and at the very end of September, where he pitched 2 1/3 innings.
Jammed him on this. Votto has it, 2 away. Let's go back to that wild card encounter with the man in blue. Lively arm, huh?
I mean, really explosive arm. And if you look at his delivery then and to look at his delivery now, it's even toned down a little bit. Of course, he had adrenaline pumping like you can't believe back then. He also pitched in the American League Division Series, and then, of course, in the World Series when he took them out in the 7th inning of Game 3.
He trimmed the beard down, too. Here's Lackey. Bounced out, knocked in a run, and then singled in the 4th. I'm fortunate every year to do Major League Baseball's rookie development down in Virginia, where the top minor leaguers from every team come in for a week to be tutored on how to be a major leaguer off the field. And Finnegan spent a lot of time with some of the players who had yet made it to the major leagues, telling them what to expect. Well, he expected it and did it last year, and now he's got his first inning under his belt as a Red.
Our Miller Time moment brought to you by Miller Lite. September 11, 1985. 41-92 for Pete Rose, becoming the all-time hit king, breaking Ty Cobb's record. Now, the hit king is in the house tonight, and they wanted to have a mini ceremony commemorating the anniversary of that historic hit, but Pete, on Police and Firefighter Appreciation Night, said, let's do it tomorrow. I don't want anything to take away from what we are honoring on September 11th and honoring the police officers, the firefighters, and the first responders. It is a bobblehead day tomorrow for Pete Rose. Major League Baseball finally loosening the reins on that one. Sold out crowd. They will have a ceremony before tomorrow's game. So Pete could have had it tonight, but gave way to the police and firefighters in a very classy move.
A wise decision by the hit king. All right, let's go around the horn. Chris, what do you remember about that night and your time with Pete?
Well, you know, my time with Pete separately, but at first base, first time I ever saw Pete cry. You know, when tears came to his eyes, and
Tommy Helms too.
Yeah, Tommy Helms and Petey Jr. running out there. Eric Shaw, in an odd way, sitting on the mound while the whole thing was going on. But the emotions that Pete had, because all the emotions that I ever saw Pete have up until that time, and ever since then, were intensity of winning a ball game. Not necessarily about him getting a hit or him getting on base, but it was about his team winning. He was a guy that would pull everybody else up a couple of notches.
Now, just like he deferred to the 9/11 ceremonies today, it was great to watch him, and you saw it happen, Chris. Here's the 2-2 delivery to Eugenio Suarez. That's inside ball 3. But, you know, I mean, this went on and on and on. And as the hit record approached and he passed one milestone then another, I mean, he took the media outside the clubhouse. He didn't want to bother the rest of the players in the clubhouse. They would have sessions before and after every game, and I've never seen an athlete embrace stardom that way and have fun every day. He would tell stories. He would reflect on the game when it was over. He'd project ahead before the game, and he genuinely enjoyed every moment of it. So many players today say, no, I'm not talking today, or, you know, whatever. JD, how about you, your memories?
Well, everything that you guys have been talking about, certainly Pete's emotions, but I'm, the broadcaster side of me comes out as well. It's always Knucksy in the background of Marty's call, which Marty's call, as usual, was flawless, but you just hear Knucksy. There it is, good down, yeah. So that always sticks out to me.
Fouled off by Suarez. By the way, JD, I did talk to Kim Nuxall today.
Oh, no.
And two things. Number one, Kim said, if you will agree to do the chicken dance, he will have Donzetta allow you to use the hat that Knucksy wore when he did the chicken dance at Oktoberfest. So we got to get this working.
Well, I would be honored to put anything that Joe Nuxall wore on, and would be honored to do anything that Donzetta and Kim would want me to do, because Donzetta is one of my favorite people on earth, along with Kim.
You're not the Lone Ranger in that, boy. And by the way, Kim continues to honor his dad, and tomorrow he's going to get together Bernie and Priscilla Stowe. Donzetta's going to be there. We were talking about Eleanor Klazuski last night, Chris. She's going to be there. They're going to have a luncheon at the Green Diamond just to get all the girls together. The O'Tooles, Grandma Bell. It's going to be a special day to get the girls together. That's Kim, just like his dad, a very special person that never forgets. I mean, we never forget the memory of 9/11, and thanks to Kim, the memory of Joe Nuxall lives on every day for everything that's been done with the Miracle League and the foundation. Pretty special. Suarez strikes out. Here's Duvall 0 for 2. Here's a sky-high, big-time pop-up. Who's going to take charge? Garcia will. Got it, 2 away. Tell you what I remember about that night with Pete, and I mean, not just that. I remember being with Pete after the strike and baseball was resumed, the night that he passed Stan Musial for the National League hit record in Philadelphia. And that night he said, the record is nice, but we didn't win the game. And like you said, it was always about winning the game. And the night here in Cincinnati, we came here with the idea of it was going to happen at some point in time. And Pete said it himself. He said, it's not like my hit streak when I was at 44 in a row, because I had to get a hit every night. I knew I was going to get this hit at some point in time. I'm having fun talking to you guys every day, but I'd sure like to get it over with. And there was a bit of relief when it was over.
I'm sure among you reporters that were following him back then too, right? I mean, you guys are traipsing all over the country.
But you never minded it, because Pete enjoyed every moment of it. It wasn't like you had to seek him out and, no, I don't want to talk today, or I'm not going to talk about it again today. He enjoyed every moment of it. He reveled in it. And so did the city. So did all of baseball. And not to belabor the point. I mean, yes, he made some mistakes, but 26 years later, I think we can turn the page, hopefully someday. Brennan Bosch moves into the on-deck circle with a pitcher spot due up next. Cabrera homered earlier to give the Reds a 2-1 lead. He's 1 for 2, his first major league homer. Two strikeouts in the inning. That's 7 on the night now for Lackey. He's still in there. We're going to the 7th. Sigafus dialing up some highlights of tonight's encounter. We are knotted at 2. 2 runs, 10 hits for the Cardinals, 1 error, 7 left. 2 runs, 6 hits for the Reds, no errors, and 6 left on base. John Lackey still in the game. Michael Lorenzen went 5 innings, allowed 10 hits, 2 runs, struck out 5, and walked 1. And the Cincinnati debut of Brandon Finnegan. He had a 1-2-3-6. He's back here in the 7th.
Yeah, he was probably on the edge of his seat wondering if he was going to be back out on the mat or not, because Brennan Bosch was sent to the on-deck circle to hit for him. Always kind of a weird situation for a pitcher, really not knowing whether you're going back out there or not. So you almost have to trick yourself mentally to assume that you're going out there until they tell you you're not.
Top of the order, Carpenter struck out, flied out, single to right.
At long range for Finnegan, I mean, it's way too early to determine what he wants to do, what he's going to do. What he wants to do is start. What the Royals liked in him was his ability to have a power arm and pitch late in the ball game as a left-handed reliever.
On the inside corner for a strike, 2-1.
And right now there's room at the end for starters, because the Reds have a bunch of rookies, yes, but not everybody has done that well, and eventually they're going to shake themselves out. But his manager down at AAA, Delino DeShields, sees him as a reliever. So with his kind of arm, I see him as a setup guy in 7th or 8th inning.
And that was a bone of contention in Kansas City, because the Royals really came to the same conclusion. They thought he'd be more valuable to them in the bullpen, even though they promised him he'd get the chance to start. It wasn't until he went to the minor leagues that he got that chance.
But at 22 years old, it's nice having a conversation about you.
Sure.
Where they want you in the major leagues. There's a lot of 22-year-olds stuck in AA right now, some in single A.
Three balls, 2 strikes to Carpenter. Seeing Finnegan for the first time, as usual, expect him to string out an at-bat to 6, 7, 8 pitches. Got him. First strikeout for Finnegan as a Red.
Well, his first strikeout is one worth mentioning, worth remembering, and naming our flamethrower, brought to you by Cholula Hot Sauce. On a 3-2 pitch, a fastball right by Matt Carpenter. That's a power arm at 94. If you consider where the Reds were, from a standpoint of how many left-handers do you have towards the top of your food chain in the minor leagues?
1.
Ready to go. Now they had Tony Cingrani.
Yeah.
But I mean, in this bullpen, the Reds have gone, a month or so without any left-handers at all. I mean, there was a time that Tony La Russa, when he was running the St. Louis Cardinals, he would not have a bullpen that didn't have 3 left-handers in it. And most teams like a little balanced bullpen. So now all of a sudden, you've got some choices, and you're going into spring training next year with, guys like Finnegan and Lamb, who's presumably will be, hopefully for his sake, considered a starter. You don't know about Reed, the young man who's pitching in AA, whether he projects as a starter or a reliever. You've got Amir Garrett, 23 years old in A-ball, but had a tremendous year this year. He may be ready to pitch out of the bullpen.
Reed trailing 4-2, pitching in Pensacola tonight in the playoffs. And realistically, Chris, you talk about next year, and you talk about 5 starters for the Reds. Homer Bailey will be one of those, and you expect the Reds maybe to add a veteran starter. But realistically, over the course of a year, you probably need 8 or 9 starters. So it's not just making the starting rotation at the start of the year. It's who do you bring up as the year progresses.
Yeah, that sounds good unless you're one of the guys that's waiting it out in the minor leagues.
You've been there.
Oh, yeah.
Breaking ball Hayward takes it. No balls, 2 strikes. And just like you mentioned, Tony Cingrani, this is a left-hander who pitched with great energy, great emotion for Kansas City, and sometimes that energy and emotion fits itself better to the bullpen than in the starting rotation.
I like what I see, I can tell you that.
Tricky hop handled, and they'll get Hayward at first. So 1, 2, 3, 6 up, 6 down for Brandon Finnegan. 2 outstanding innings here in the 7th. We'll keep it here in the 7th. We'll honor America with God Bless America. Here's Joe Zierhusen.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we ask that you please stand, kindly remove your hats and face the American flag. Major League Baseball, the Reds and the Cardinals salute the men and women of our armed forces, as well as those who serve to protect in our local police and fire departments. At this time, please help us honor these brave men and women and all our veterans of service as we celebrate and honor Patriot Day in America with McKinney Medley singing the God Bless America.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Of our DirecTV standings look at the best records in Major League Baseball tonight. Cardinals 88 victories, Pirates 83. Starting play today, Pittsburgh 4.5 back of St. Louis. The Cubs 7 games back to start a play. The Cubs won today. They now have 81 victories, so right now they're 6.5 back. And of course the Dodgers leading the West with an 80-59 record, lead San Francisco by 8.5, and the Giants are 9 back in the wild card hunt. Here's Skip Schumacher, who will pinch hit for Finnegan. Chris, your report card on Finnegan for 2 innings.
Hey, 2 shutout innings, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Those are the first 2 shutout innings the Reds have had all night. Or I mean 1, 2, 3 innings. So How do you get better than that?
Good debut for Finney. Brandon Finnegan with 2 strong innings. Lorenzen started for the Reds. Michael went 5 innings, allowed 10 hits and 2 runs. Lackey's still in there as we go to the 7th inning. And the rain coming down a little bit harder now. Drizzle has turned into steady raindrops. Swing and a miss. That's now 3 strikeouts in the last 4. That's 4 strikeouts in the last 5 batters for Lackey, and 8 on the night.
Yeah, 8 on the night up until, well, after the first out of the 6th inning, he had 6 strikeouts. He had 1 exactly in each of the first 6 innings. And he ruined that by striking out Cabrera to end the 6th, and then now striking out Schumacher here in the 7th.
One away, here's Hamilton showing bunt. Breaking ball drops in there for a strike.
You know, for some reason or other, maybe it's because the Reds, aren't pounding on the Cardinals like they did last night. The Cardinals seem to have a little bit more energy tonight. They came in last night, looked like they were really dragging.
Fouled off 0-2, and Lackey just pumped strikes at these Reds in the last couple of innings.
I mean, it's really interesting. It's fearless the way he uses his fastball. And you can learn so much from watching John Lackey pitch. Now he's got a lot of deception. He's got good control. He's a big guy, 6 feet 6 inches tall. So he's not an easy guy to hit. And he's sneaky because he is so big. He's got good extension towards home plate, and that ball gets on you a little bit quicker than it seems like it would. And that's where his deception is.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Breaking ball misses 2-2. Fearless is such an apropos description for number 41, Chris. Ever since he came to the major leagues under Mike Scioscia in Anaheim, every time he takes the mound, he gives you a fearless feeling. There's a bouncer back through the middle into center, a base hit. So the Reds get something cooking with 1 out here in the 7th. Billy stole his 55th base earlier tonight, and that was the trigger to the Reds' first run.
Well, he has been a headache to John Lackey all night long, and here Billy Hamilton is considering, not switch hitting. And he's got 3 hits on the night, 2 singles and a double down the left field line. And get your shins out of the way there, or else you get a shin burger, John Lackey. And he'll be paying a little more attention here, I'm sure, to Billy now.
Well, Hamilton on with 1 out, and here's Bruce. Bounced out, flied out, flied out. Runner not going, swing and a miss. And Lackey does not have a great move to first. He will hold the ball a lot.
Well, there was a time when the league was just stealing him blind. A couple of years ago when he played for Boston, he gave up 36 stolen bases. Only 7 were thrown out. But the Cardinals have really tightened that up. This year he's given up only 5, and they have thrown out 3. That's a Yadier Molina effect.
Not going again, swing and a miss, 0-2.
Of course, Molina's never thrown out Billy Hamilton, so. And the thing about it is that, he throws so many fastballs, Lackey does, that if you're looking for a breaking ball count, he doesn't even know what that means.
There goes Billy. Here comes the throw. It will be in time, but it gets past Peralta into center field, and Billy's going to be sitting at third. That's Peralta's fault. The ball was there before the runner. If he gets it, Hamilton's out for the first time, thrown out by Molina. Instead, he's sitting on third.
Well, Peralta has done that twice. A swing and a miss right there. Not a great throw. And I know that's a case where you can see why he would do that. Because he's got a chance to pick it quick and then still get Billy Hamilton. So I'm excusing Peralta on that one, because that's just the way everybody would probably play that ball. The other one where he didn't get in front of the ball at all was an error on his part, I thought, instead of the error on the catcher Molina. They are not going to pitch to Votto, and that is pretty much a given.
Bruce became the 9th strikeout victim on the pitch. And Votto will be walked intentionally for the second time, and overall walked for the third time tonight. So it's first and third. This is right where the Reds were in the 5th inning, but they couldn't get a run in. And it'll be up to Brandon again. Brandon in the 5th with runners at first and third. Popped out into the foul territory area of the Reds dugout on a nice play by Brandon Moss, reaching into the Reds dugout to pick it off. So it's up to Brandon to try to get the run in. Tonight, reached on an infield hit that allowed Hamilton to score. Billy in the 1st. Singled. Stole second, went to third on an error, and scored on the hit in the infield by Phillips. He doubled in the 3rd, was left stranded, and popped out in the 5th. There goes Votto again, and there'll be no throw. So Votto gets his 2nd stolen base of the night. That's his 9th. I think that's number 10 for Joey now. Picked up his 9th in the 5th. That's number 10 for Votto. Oh, you talk about coming up with big pitches when you need it. Lackey's doing that tonight, Chris.
He's throwing the ball about as well as anybody on this Cardinal pitching staff. The Reds saw Jaime Garcia, who came into the ball game last night having won, I guess, each of his last 5 decisions. Lackey's been even hotter than Garcia.
Oh, 2. In the dirt. No, he didn't go. Jim Joyce saying he held up. Frazier, who struck out twice already, on deck. And Molina and Lackey will get together. Well, sometimes you see pitchers at their best, and I remember watching Lackey in 2007 when he won 19. He was in the Cy Young debate, over 200 innings. And sometimes you see him at their worst. And in Boston, when he pitched with a bad arm, never said boo. He got hammered night after night. The fans were all over him, but he never said boo. Had arm surgery, came back, and proved to be even a better pitcher.
Proved to even be a greater deal for Boston, and then now the St. Louis Cardinals. You know, he made that long-term deal with the Boston Red Sox, and he said in that deal, if I miss time due to an elbow injury, like a Tommy John surgery, I will play a year for the league minimum. And the year, and he did miss time, and he had surgery. And the beneficiary of that is the St. Louis Cardinals, because this is the year that he is playing for the league minimum.
Dribbled in front of the plate. In fact, last year when the season was over and the Cardinals were eliminated, the first guy they went to was Lackey. And the reporter said, "Are you still going to play for the league minimum next year?" And he said, "I will."
Well,
I'll
he's
honor
got a
that.
contract.
I mean, and there was talk about renegotiating, so on and so forth. And he was a stand-up guy in dealing with that.
I mean, I like that a lot.
As
and
a
so do the
teammate.
Cardinals.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
Did he go? Yes, he did that time. So Lackey strikes out the side in between a base hit, a stolen base, and an intentional walk. So Lackey, 10 strikeouts on the night. Still tied at 2. Ball game. John Lackey's been tough. The only guy to get to him with a big swing was Ramon Cabrera's first major league homer. That gave the Reds a 2-1 lead in the second inning. And at the same time, on the other side of it, not a big home run hitter, but a guy who's had a good night tonight. Greg Garcia, 2 hits, including his second home run of the season. That tied the game at 2. Michael Lorenzen on the night, 5 innings, 10 hits, 2 runs. He exited. And John Lackey's still in there. Lackey with a 2-2 game on the line. And meanwhile, Brandon Finnegan has made his National League debut with the Cincinnati Reds. 2 innings, no runs, 2 strikeouts in a Reds debut. A good start for Finnegan as a Red. Add it all up, 2-10-2 for the Cardinals and 7 left on. 2 runs, 7 hits, no errors, 8 left on for the Reds. Here's J.J. Hoover, who takes over as we go to the 8th. Peralta, Molina, and Moss due up to face the big Reds right-hander.
Now the rain coming down very hard now. A lot of people looking for cover. And it's at this time a lot of people say, well, who's the advantage lie with right here when it's raining as hard as it is? That, you know, is it easier to be a pitcher or easier to be the hitter? I think until the field gets really wet, it's easier to be the pitcher. You got drops of water dripping off the brim of your helmet. Got to be distracting if you're Johnny Peralta.
1 ball, 2 strikes. The other side of it is, if you're a power pitcher with a big long stride, the sand and the dirt on that mound can be a little disconcerting. You're worried about a groin or a hamstring pull.
No, you're not worried about that. You're worried about control and leaving one out over the center of the plate. But right now, it's still not wet enough to have that concern. Good pitch there, a little slider.
Popped up. Suarez peering up into the raindrops. He bobbled the ball. And the runner will be safe at first. Eugenio Suarez has it squirt out of his glove, peering up into the heavy rain. I got it, but he's got it, but can't hold on. So an error on the Reds.
Well, how long has it been since you've seen that?
This year you've seen a lot of things you haven't seen in a long time.
Now we're seeing something we've seen a lot this year, and that is the ground crew at Great American Ballpark getting the tarp out. Man, oh man, are these guys overworked.
The Reds have had some 29 hours of rain delay, 24 hours of rain delay here, and those folks you see right there, you talk about a big time year. In spite of what the Reds may have done on the field, they've been called upon time and time again, and they're going to do it another time here. So here in the 8th inning, with no outs and a runner on first, the grounds crew will put the tarp on, and judging by the radar we're looking at, there's a pretty good storm moving through the area that may take a little while.
Oh, is that right? Well, thanks for the good news.
Joel Luckup is on top of it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Hey, did I happen to show you the fan mail that I got today?
Yes, you did. That's an all-time.
I put it on my Twitter account. You can read it on that. I'm at Think Pitch. But we're going to give you some insight here. I'm going to have to cover the gentleman's name who sent it to me, because I don't want to give him any more publicity than he deserves. But I don't know if you can read this or not. We're going to try to hold that still. And if you can't read it, I will go ahead and read it, George. I want to know, George, I'm going to have a writing expert.
Jesse Jackson, did you write this?
And I want to make sure that you didn't write this. And essentially it says, I mean it's hard to read because it's, you know, it's just a regular size 10 letter envelope, and the note is on the outside. It's
we don't know what's on the inside.
Chris Welsh at Cincinnati Reds, and it says, Chris, down here, I don't like you, and I think you stink as an announcer. But could you send me an autographed baseball card from all of the 17 teams that cut you? Whoever it was has certainly done his research. Because I only thought it was 16 teams that cut me.
You thought you saw it all this year.
Sampling of what you get here.
You thought you saw it all.
Yeah.
The only thing that counts is that it wasn't somebody from Fox.
I just don't want to be cut by them.
That's right.
They can send me all the letters they want. But we have some fun up here anyway.
You're not kidding.
We've had a lot of time to talk during our rain delays, George, and you haven't been here through too many of these rain delays. And I mean, we've ridden poor Hal McCoy. I mean, he's ready to be put out the pasture. They've ridden him so hard during rain delays up here.
Well, buddy, you're never going to be cut from my team, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
By the way, for those of you that have joined us late, the storylines for today. First of all, the game itself. Reds and the Cardinals tied 2-2. Lorenzen 5 innings, 10 hits, 2 runs. Lackey's pitched brilliantly tonight. He's still in there. And before the game started, just prior to the start of the game, the announcement came from Major League Baseball that Joey Votto had been suspended for 2 games in his confrontation that saw him ejected 2 days ago. And for those of you that weren't with us and didn't get a chance to hear Votto's description of how he reacted to it, we're going to give you a chance to hear his whole discussion with the media. It goes about 10 minutes long. That took place right before the game. We'll take time for this break, and when we return, we'll hear Joey Votto talking about his 2-game suspension. 2-2 Cardinals and Reds.